After previously Rui used the eyes of God on the stone won by Boss Ma, which contained a very amazing red jade, even Rui seemed to live by walking inside the stone. Then, the cutting process began. After finishing, the results of the stone cut surprised everyone at the auction, including Uncle Gu. Because the color was bright red and the price was very expensive. Because if made into one bracelet, it could reach $1 million, making them suddenly rich. Bing Bing immediately contacted her father and explained that the ice-type red jade had appeared at the event. The auction participants competed to buy the stone. Feng, who was annoyed, also joined in to bid arrogantly for $10 million. However, Huang Yu and Boss Ma agreed to reject the offer and did not want to sell it to Feng. Feng questioned the reason for rejecting his offer, and according to Boss Ma, it was just a piece of stone, and you didn't need to spend that much money. Then Boss Ma got a call, but the phone he was holding was upside down. In the conversation, it was heard from someone who was going to buy red jade. It turned out that the buyer was Bing Bing from the Shihuang Jewelry Company. Bing Bing was grateful and would buy $11 million, which could buy hot dogs and the seller at the same time. Feng then reported to Mr. Shu that the red jade had been bought by Bing Bing. Mr. Shu realized that the stone was very rare, and Feng was too quick in negotiating and reminded him to confirm about item number 0. The last bid was item 0, which was immediately announced. The participant who won this auction would become the king of bidding for item number 0, reaching $13 million and falling to Mr. Shu. Mr. Shu thanked the attention to Shu Corporation and announced that he would make the cut openly as the closing of this year's emporium. However, Fei came to arrest Feng for commercial fraud, dirty competition, and bribery. Although Mr. Shu prevented him from waiting for his lawyer, Fei still took him to the police station. The next day, they gathered to celebrate the success of this year's emporium. In this meeting, Bing Bing also handed over a check from a Swiss bank according to the red jade purchase note. Huang Yu was so happy because he could suddenly get rich that he wanted to jump out of his chair. Bing Bing thanked him for helping him, and Pang Pei also thanked Rui's kindness and was willing to be his bodyguard. However, Rui did not need it because he only wanted Pang Pei to be his best friend. At the police station, Feng is interrogated by Officer Fei, asking about the manipulation of the emporium in Pangzhou and his involvement with the murder of Boss Yu, who was recorded using his car. Feng arrogantly says that he really doesn't understand the case he is accused of. This made Officer Fei angry, but finally Feng was released on bail by his lawyer. Elsewhere, Uncle Day was impressed with his success in Pangzhou and gave him a little advice. Only wise people realize that life is like a dream, and for those with a high level of awareness will understand. According to Uncle D, Rui also lacks confidence in making decisions, and now Rui has been known as the King of Northern Jade because of his abilities after the event at the Emporium. Then, Rui got a call that there was a problem at the antique shop. Rui immediately went to the place to find Huang Yu, looking strange like a zombie. It turned out to be a surprise for him because Huang Yu and Basma bought this shop as a gift. They have also decorated it to look different from before. Rui was surprised and happy, and they agreed to name this antique shop Rui Yu. The next day, the shop was officially opened. Huang Yu received news that the jade shipment was having problems with the police over a permit to enter the city. The courier asked Huang Yu to bring his own vehicle to pick it up. Then, Huang Yu told Rui that he would pick up the rental car soon. At that time, Pang Pei came to the shop and wanted to work here because he had been fired from the shoe company. It is clear that Rui is a good person and is willing to accept Pang Pei as an employee in the shop. And now Pang Pei has officially become part of the Ruyun family. Then Bing Bing called to invite them to dinner. But Rui said he would pick up Jade at the city border, and Bing Bing agreed to join the trip. Then Rui invited Pang Pei to go to the city border, and Bing Bing who was already in the car. On the way, Bingbing reminded them not to drive too fast because the road passed through a ravine. Unexpectedly, the brakes had problems and ended in an accident. The car was destroyed and they were quite badly injured. Then Rui woke up first, trying to wake Pang Pei and Bingbing. Rui got out of the car and tried to wake them up again, but there was no response. Moving to another place, the leader of the Qin company and also the father of Bingbing, named Boss Hao, is discussing with other businessmen. One of the people named Mr. Lin thinks that Boss Hao has monopolized the gemstone business in the city, so that his company is close to bankruptcy because it has too much debt in the bank. Here, Boss Hao is willing to buy their shares or wait until they really go bankrupt. Then one of the assistants gets a call and gives it to Boss Hao. Instead of wasting time, the assistant immediately tells them to sign the proposal that has been prepared on the table. After receiving news of Bingbing's accident, Boss Hao immediately goes to the airport so that they are finally willing to sign the contract agreement. Moving to the hospital, Rui is seen being bandaged by the nurse and says that her wound is not too bad, but she needs to rest a lot. In another room, Bingbing is also conscious and talking to her father. Bingbing suspects that the mastermind behind this accident is from the Zhu family because they are hurt by the previous incident at the Emporium and are taking it out on Rui, but they don't know that Bingbing will be in the car. Even if the Zhu family apologizes, Boss Hao will retaliate against them slowly but deadly. Rui casually brings a mangosteen and tries to enter the room, but she comes back out and Boss Hao follows her. Rui apologizes because she feels guilty for involving her daughter in this incident. Then, Boss Hao invites her to come in. Rui is a little embarrassed because she can only bring mangosteen while her relations bring expensive items. But Bingbing feels that they bring good items just to get her father's attention. In fact, the sincere thing is the mangosteen brought by Rui. Elsewhere, Mr. Xu and Feng have found out that Bingbing was involved in an accident with Rui. Mr. Xu discusses Boss Hao's business, which has officially bought shares in Boss Lin's company. Also, Rui and Bingbing's relationship is getting closer. It seems that Mr. Xu is very upset considering Feng useless in handling the increasingly complicated problems caused by his actions. At the police station, Officer Fei gets news of a craftsman who produces weapons identical to those used to kill Boss Yu. This is in accordance with the traditional method of using cast iron from dry sand so that it contains arsenic in the metal. Huang Yu accompanies Rui to return home, even though he walks with a slight limp. When they entered, Pang Pei looked fine, and, according to him, the vehicle they rented had been sabotaged because, at that time, the brakes were not working, causing the car to skid. He considered Feng to be the perpetrator because he was a very impulsive and narrow-minded person who would do anything to achieve his goals. From the police investigation, it was found that the car's brake hose was deliberately cut by someone, which means this was murder. The police have interrogated the mechanic who handled the car, who claimed to be drunk while working. Then, Officer Fei came and Huang Yu ordered to arrest Feng because his car had been manipulated, and the strongest suspicion was that Xiao was the perpetrator, because it was impossible for a drunk person to cut the brake hose and loosen the car tire screws. However, Officer Fei could not do it because there was no evidence, and this mechanic was the victim who was ordered by Feng to do it. Then Fei received information from his assistant that he had found a place to make the weapon used to kill Boss Yu. So Fei and his assistant went and immediately entered the house, ready to arrest the suspect. Fei found a craftsman who looked half blind who was sharpening arrows. He asked for an explanation about the buyer of his weapon. However, this person had a bit of difficulty because he was half blind. According to him, the arrow does not produce sound, smoke, and fire, but its function is as dangerous as the gun carried by the police. So Fei explained about the weapon he made, used for murder, which means he will also be dragged into this case. Hearing this, the craftsman realized that it was a risk for a weapons seller, so he gave information about the man who bought his weapon, with the characteristics of being 180 centimeters tall, having a proportional body, and having an aura of death, probably like someone who has received professional training. Then, this person also explained that he had a faint smell, like a woman who wears amber perfume. Rui's estimate turned out to be correct that the perpetrator behind all this was Feng, who paid the mechanic 1 million yuan for manipulating the car rented by Rui. Then Feng and Mr. Shu met Boss Hao to discuss business. Here Feng apologized for being careless about the accident that befell Bingbing, and would take care of her with all his heart, and promised that the previous incident would not happen again. The conversation continued when Mr. Ashu offered some ancient objects from the Qing dynasty and Ming dynasty. This rare item has difficulty with licensing to be sold abroad, so Feng wants to work with Boss Hao, because Boss Hao has access to sales abroad, and the profits are clearly very large. This is actually an illegal act because it includes high-risk smuggling, but it turns out that Boss Hao agrees to help with it. After arriving home, Bingbing is upset because her father agreed to this illegal cooperation because it will be subject to legal problems that will have an impact on the company. Then Boss Hao explains that this is an opportunity to get closer to the Shu family, because Feng also promised to take care of him. The next day, Rui meets Bingbing and explains that Feng is the person behind the previous accident, but does not have evidence yet. Then Bingbing says that her father has worked with the Shu family in smuggling antiques abroad. Actually, this is also intentional to corner the Qin family, so that they are willing to work with the Shu family. The riskiest thing is the logistics method that carries antiques that unexpectedly Bingbing knows the company that handles it. So that afternoon, Rui and Huang Yu went to the logistics company that Feng used for this illegal activity. They then met one of the employees to pretend to rent a logistics service on the grounds of sending quite a lot of fruit. Huang Yu gave a bonus, so that the employee would immediately take care of it. When the employee took out the rental agreement note, Rui used his golden eyes to penetrate the paper and found the name of the Shu family. After checking all the vehicles had been used, Rui immediately took the money and invited Huang Yu to leave immediately. Outside, Rui contacted Officer Fei to explain that Feng had not only attempted murder, but also forced the Qin family to smuggle antiques abroad, and had found the logistics transportation company in detail used by the Shu family. After that, Fei was a little confused by the story of the weapons craftsman who was previously interrogated, because the boss of Boss Yu's killer was a woman, while the Shu family did not have a daughter, and made this case even more complicated. Then Fei went to Ru Yun's shop, explaining that the police had investigated the owner of the workshop and the owner of the transportation service who were related. It was also found that there was a large flow of funds from the Shu company to the owner of the transportation service named Gu Tai. Then Feng would be charged with attempted murder and smuggling. Officer Fei also thanked Rui for helping a lot in this case. The next day, 3 logistics vehicles had started to leave for the port. Without them realizing it, the police were ready to block them to check the goods they were transporting, making them really panic. Immediately, they were ordered to get off to show complete documents, and they were immediately arrested for questioning. Officer Fei and his assistant opened the vehicle and checked several items that were going to be smuggled. Then it was true that he found one piece of evidence of antiques that were going to be sent abroad. Boss Hao was surprised when he found out that the police could find out about their plan, while Mr. Ashu said that he would not be doing any activities outside for the time being. And Feng had not come home at all, because Feng had been on the wanted list and was hiding somewhere. Then Boss Hao's assistant showed the location of the fugitives and reported it to the police. Elsewhere, Officer Fei meets Bingbing to ask for information. Suddenly, Feng appears, running towards him, trying to attack with a knife. Fortunately, Officer Fei, with quick reflexes, stops and throws him to the floor. Feng continues to scream and will remember their faces, also will take revenge. Then Feng is immediately handcuffed and taken to the police station. Bing Bing thanks him for saving her. But when Officer Fei is about to leave, she realizes something, because Bing Bing has a smell of amber perfume, like the characteristics said by the weapons craftsman. That afternoon, Bing Bing accidentally hears her father talking to the assistant, discussing plans to use Rui to destroy the Exu family. Elsewhere, Rui visits Uncle D because he has wanted to meet for a long time and says he will give 10 antique commemorative documents from the Guangxu Empire. Then manager Lu comes and orders Rui like a servant. Uncle D says, if there is anything related to antiques, tell him to ask Rui. Manager Lu arrogantly says that he doesn't need employees. Then Uncle D says, this young man is the owner of the famous Ruyun shop in Pangyijuan Market. This person was shocked because he had heard about the emporium that got the ice-red jade. Then Manager Lu discussed something important about the jade eye that made him have the power of the god eye.